Good morning, sweet friends. I hope that you guys are having an amazing day, an amazing week. I love and I miss you guys so much. I cannot wait to see you again soon. Well, we are right in the middle of our book about the White House winners. I hope that you guys enjoyed that yesterday. We're going to pick up right where we left off. So, as you remember, we were reading this story about all these fun, cool, weird facts about all of the presidents. And we went through the first 5 presidents yesterday. So today we're going to pick up where we left off, and we're going to start with our 6th president right here, which was John Quincy Adams. Like I said, he was the 6th president, and he served from 1825 to 1829. And his hometown was Braintree, Massachusetts. Someone else was from there as well. Let's see. Who was it? I remember someone else. John Adams, the 2nd president. All right. He wins the best profile pic. Say cheese. John Quincy Adams may not have been the first president ever photographed, but his picture is the oldest surviving photo of a U.S. president, even though the photo was taken years after he'd left office. The image was snapped on August 1st of 1843 in upstate New York. 4 daguerreotypes, which are old photos made on silver plates instead of paper, were created of Adams that day, all of which were said to be hideous. The runner-up would be William Henry Harrison. William Henry Harrison was actually the first president to have his photo taken. He posed on March 4th, 1841, but unfortunately, the picture was lost. All right, let's read about Andrew Jackson. He was the 7th president. He served from 1829 to 1837. His hometown was Waxhaw Settlement, the border between North and South Dakota. Interesting. He was the biggest joker. Young Andrew Jackson was famous for his carefree nature and his practical jokes. People called him a mischievous fellow and head of all the rowdies. In one famous prank, Jackson decided to move people's outhouses, which are outdoor bathrooms like porta potties. While everyone was inside the building, Jackson moved the outhouses to new locations that were unknown to everyone else. So when people needed to go, they couldn't find the bathrooms. Oh, man, he sounds like a funny one. The runner-up for that would have been Bill Clinton. According to the press reports, when he was leaving office, President Bill Clinton's staff allegedly removed the letter W from the White House keyboards, so President George W. Bush's staff members couldn't type in his middle initial. Man, we've got some jokers as our presidents. Being silly. All right, moving on. President number 8, which was Martin Van Buren. He served from 1837 to 1841, and his hometown was Kinderhook, New York. He had the best nickname. Let's see what his nickname was. Martin Van Buren was a man of many nicknames. Being slim and 5 foot 6 inches tall, he was sometimes called the Little Magician for his size and political skills. He was also called the Sly Fox, the Old Kinderhook, after his birthplace in New York. Van Buren's Old Kinderhook nickname may have inspired one of the words we use today. His supporters formed the OK Club to show how much they liked their candidate. Shortly after this, the use of the term OK became wildly popular. The runner-up for the best nickname would have been Ulysses S. Grant. Ulysses S. Grant had so many victories on Civil War battlefields that people said his initials, U and S, actually stood for unconditional surrender. He was also known as the Great Hammerer. President number 9, William Henry Harrison. He served from March of 1841 to April of 1841. Oh, not very long at all, did he? His hometown was Charles City, County, Virginia. And he had the biggest blabbermouth. You guys know anyone that's a blabbermouth? Let's read to find out about William Henry Harrison. National war hero William Henry Harrison was a Whig Party member with something to say. After winning the 1841 presidential election, Harrison stepped up to the podium and gave the country's longest inaugural address. The speech was timed at more than 90 minutes and was made up of almost 9,000 words. Sadly, some think that it was during his long speech, given in bad weather, that Harrison got pneumonia that may have led to his death 32 days later. Yeek. So he got sick shortly after taking office. The runner-up to that would have been Martin Van Buren. And Martin Van Buren could give speeches not only in English but also in Dutch. That's because his hometown, Kinderhook, New York, was formed by Dutch settlers who still spoke the language of their home country. Van Buren is the only president whose first language wasn't English. All right, moving right along. President number 10, John Tyler. He served from 1841 to 1845, and his hometown was Charles City, County, Virginia. Guess what? Biggest party animal. Oh my goodness. Even though John Tyler was a member of the Whig Party, his politics didn't really fit in with the rest of the party ideas. That's why Whig leader Henry Clay and Tyler, a man without a party, Tyler's wife Julia couldn't bear how upset Tyler was. So she decided she'd give her husband the biggest party she could. In February of 1845, she hosted an unforgettable shindig at the White House. When someone told Tyler what a great bash it was, he said, "Yes, they cannot say now that I am a president without a party." The runner-up for that would have been Andrew Jackson. In 1829, when Andrew Jackson won the election, people could visit the White House to party with the president. On his first day in office, his inaugural party is considered the wildest bash the White House has ever seen. President number 11, James K. Polk. He served from 1845 to 1849, and his hometown was Pineville, North Carolina. Ooh, he was the most serious. James K. Polk grew up in a strict and religious Presbyterian community and influence many historians say was partly responsible for his strong work ethic. His wife was also a very religious woman. Their beliefs meant that there could be no alcohol, no dancing, no card games in the White House. That made for some tame, even lame presidential gatherings. When Polk was elected, they actually stopped dancing during the inaugural ball while the Polks were in the room. Dancing started up again as soon as they left. The runner-up to that would have been Calvin Coolidge. Calvin Coolidge was a serious guy, so serious that he even wore a formal hat while shaving. He said it was to keep the hair out of his eyes. All right, just a couple more for today. Number 12, Zachary Taylor. 1849 to 1850. His hometown was Louisville, Kentucky. And guess what? He was the most humble. Do you guys know what humble means? Let's see if you can figure it out. Zachary Taylor was a war hero. He earned the nickname of Old Rough and Ready for his successes on the battlefields during the War of 1812, the Black Hawk War, and the Second Seminole War. But his great success never went to his head. Even though he was a general, Taylor never wore his uniform or anything that hinted at his rank. One day, while he was visiting soldiers in the field, an officer offered him his trunk to sit on and apologized that it was in such bad shape. Taylor reportedly said, "All I am afraid of is that I will spoil the trunk." What a nice guy. Runner-up would have been George Washington. George Washington stepped down after 2 terms, even though he was very popular. This humble man said that when he looked back at his administration, he couldn't think of anything he had done wrong on purpose, but he was sensible enough to know that he probably made some mistakes. So humble, I bet you guys could figure it out, but that means that you do things without the recognition, without getting the attention for it. You do it just to do it, and you don't want all the people just giving you all the attention for it. You just do it because it's the right thing, right? All right. Number 13, Millard Fillmore. He served from 1850 to 1853, and his hometown was Moravia, New York. Guess what? He loved to read. He was our biggest bookworm. This president loved words and books. Wherever he went, Millard Fillmore carried a dictionary with him so that he could build his vocab. When he first entered the White House, he was shocked to find it lacking reading material. So he and his wife Abigail created the first White House library. In 1851, when a fire flared up at the Library of Congress, Fillmore raced to battle the blaze and save his books. He also sponsored a bill to replace the books that were damaged in the fire. The runner-up would have been Thomas Jefferson. He liked to read also. By 1814, Thomas Jefferson had the largest personal library of anyone in the United States, with 6,487 books. He sold his books for $23,950 to create a new Library of Congress after the original one burned by the British during the War of 1812. So cool. All right, our last 2 for today. Franklin Pierce. He was our 14th president. He served from 1853 to 1857. His hometown was Hillsborough, New Hampshire. And he had the best hair. Look at those curly locks. Historians consider Franklin Pierce's term as president to be mostly forgettable because things seemed so calm. But what was not forgettable about Pierce was his hair. A huge wave of curly black strands rose from the top of his head and was combed on a deep slant over his wide forehead, according to people who saw him. The runner-up for best hair would have been John F. Kennedy. John F. Kennedy was known as a fashionable dresser, but he was also famous for his great hair. He kept it short at the sides and longer on top, and there never seemed to be a hair out of place. All right, last one for today. Our 15th president, James Buchanan. He served from 1857 to 1861, and his hometown was Cove Gap, Pennsylvania. And he was the most independent. James Buchanan was a handsome man who dressed well and had excellent manners. Still, even though he was charming, James Buchanan was the only president who was never married. When a group of White House visitors noted that everything was perfect except for one thing, there was no lady of the White House. Buchanan said, "That is my misfortune, not my fault." Harriet Lane, Buchanan's niece, acted as the First Lady and hosted important events and beautiful parties. The runner-up to him would have been Grover Cleveland. Grover Cleveland was single when he entered the White House. He became the only president married at the White House when he and Frances Folsom tied the knot in 1886. So cool. We learned about presidents that had the best hair, that were the biggest bookworms, the most humble, most serious, biggest blabbermouths. We learned a lot of cool facts today. We'll pick up there tomorrow and learn about some more of our presidents until we get to the end. I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye, guys.